Welcome to the Nationwide Boiler Vodcast. I'm Chelsea Riker, Director of Marketing and Communications. And today, we're diving into why having high-capacity boilers in stock matters now more than ever. To help us explore this topic, I'm joined by Jim Leiskeben, Nationwide Boiler's Vice President of Sales. Jim has extensive experience working with customers to solve complex steam challenges and ensure reliable solutions when time is critical. In this episode, we'll highlight a recent success story. A 180,000 pound per hour Babcock & Wilcox Watertube boiler delivered to a major food processing facility in California. And we'll discuss how our in-stock solutions help customers minimize downtime, overcome logistical challenges, and keep operations running when every minute counts. To start things off, let's discuss what led to the urgent need for a boiler at this food processing facility. Jim, how did the Nationwide Boiler team manage the shipping and logistical challenges to meet such a tight deadline?
This particular customer is a long-term customer of ours, highly trusted relationship, and their production requirements have increased. Of the boilers that they have at their site, 2 of the boilers were smaller and aging, and they didn't believe that they would be viable for this increased production requirement. So they purchased new production equipment and then realized that they didn't have enough steam to fully take advantage of it, which created a problem. So they gave us a call and asked us what solutions we might have. And being that a new boiler, if we were to build one from scratch, would take 50 to 55 weeks to fabricate and deliver, an in-stock solution became the only way to meet their deadlines. So Nationwide Boiler, as part of our strategic stocking program, happened to have a 180,000 pound an hour B&W D-type boiler in stock available for immediate shipping, which cut their timeline down significantly. In fact, it allowed the boiler to be purchased, delivered, installed, and commissioned in a timeline that aligned with their needs, which became critical to this project.
That really highlights how critical it is to have boilers in stock when timelines are tight. But in California, availability and speed aren't the only challenges. Emissions regulations can add another layer of complexity. How did the team navigate those environmental hurdles?
So prior to the boiler being delivered, the next big hurdle was dealing with the local air district. And a boiler of this size requires considerable permitting requirements when it comes to emissions standards. And initially it looked as though the air district permit was going to negate their ability to operate their plant in the way they had been accustomed. In other words, they were going to have to leave 2 of their boilers offline in order to utilize the new boiler, which kind of defeated the purpose of the supplementary additional steam. They wanted more steam, but they also wanted flexibility to operate their steam plant predicated upon their varying production requirements. So we worked very closely with our contacts at the Air District to work within the rules and to develop an authority to construct an ATC that allowed our customer to meet all of the most stringent emissions requirements while also meeting their own operational requirements. And that was a big part of the project because without an Air District permit, the boiler cannot be installed. So we had to make sure that we didn't put the horse in front of the cart and proceed with the boiler installation and purchase prior to having the ATC resolved. So that was accomplished, and this project required 2.5 ppm NOx, 10 ppm ammonia slip for the SCR, and 25 ppm CO, all of which are really quite stringent. And because this customer has multiple nationwide Catastack SCR systems already in use with their other boilers, we equipped this new boiler with the same nationwide Catastack technology, but we added to that CO reduction as well. So with our ducks in a row, with the ATC now acquired, emissions requirements understood, we were able to ship the boiler to the site.
That's great. Thanks for explaining how our team was able to address each challenge successfully and deliver on schedule. Now, looking at the bigger picture, lead times for new industrial boilers can stretch for many months, sometimes close to a year. How does Nationwide Boiler's in-stock program help customers get a solution in hand much faster and avoid costly downtime?
So given that Nationwide Boiler has been in the business of expedited steam solutions for nearly 60 years, both from a rental and an equipment sales perspective, expedited solutions are really in our DNA. That's what we do best. And what we're finding is with today's fast-paced business environment, long production requirements or long production lead times don't always align with our customers' dynamic production requirements. So a customer might have a production need today, but a conventional solution wouldn't have the boiler equipment on site for upwards of a year, which often causes problems. So by having quality proven in-stock equipment within our inventory, we can quick ship that equipment to the job site and better satisfy our customers' needs. It's just a given in today's fast-paced business world that people want solutions now, and they just can't always wait a year to have a new Watertube boiler delivered. And I think that's the true value of Nationwide Boiler Strategic Stocking Program.
That makes sense. Having equipment ready can really make a difference. So, when it comes to deciding which boiler models and capacities to keep in stock, what factors are considered? And how does Nationwide Boiler make sure that we're ready for the various industries we serve, such as food processing, petrochemicals, and manufacturing?
Yeah, that's a really good question because a lot of thought goes into that, as you can imagine. When you have an in-stock inventory that's valued at $65 to $75 million, you want to make sure that it is aimed at the needs of our customers. So I think the most important factor in determining what we maintain in stock is simply staying connected with our customers. Listening to their needs, understanding their needs, receiving their feedback, and also staying abreast of trends. For instance, currently it seems like larger boilers tend to be more popular than smaller boilers. You can always underfire a larger boiler, but you can't overfire a smaller boiler. So larger boilers tend to be more popular at this point in time. Also, we have to pay very much attention to emissions requirements. NOx and CO emissions in California are very different than they might be in the Midwest. So we have to maintain equipment that can meet the more stringent requirements of California, Texas, Pennsylvania, Washington, and some other areas that have already embarked upon the ultra-low NOx market. And we also have to have equipment that is geared more towards those states that don't have as stringent a NOx requirement. So really, to your point, we do a lot of listening. We pay attention to trends. We talk to our customers, and we make sure that we have solutions that meet a broad variety of needs. Sometimes it means that we have a modular solution where we'll have a basic boiler package that is useful in most states that then can be equipped with an SCR system that allows it to be utilized in California. So by creating a modular approach, we can take a base inventory of equipment and have it applied to a very broad range of applications that meet our customers' needs.
Right. And because we have these options pre-built and in stock, we're often able to offer an expedited solution. Now, in terms of planning ahead, when a company suddenly needs a new or replacement boiler fast, what should they know about procuring an in-stock boiler from Nationwide?
So I think I could probably respond to this best by opening this to either a new boiler or a rental boiler. The best thing, particularly with regards to an emergency rental boiler, is to have a plan in advance. And that really applies to an expedited new boiler or an expedited rental. What often happens is a customer will have an issue with one of their existing boilers that's reducing their steam capacity, so they need an expedited steam solution to place them back online. And will show up and there's no connections for the rental boilers, so they have to bring the entire plant down to put in valved connections so that they can install the rental boiler and get back up online. A far better approach is to anticipate the need for either a replacement boiler or a rental and to install these piping connections in advance, perhaps during a scheduled downtime, being a little bit proactive. And what that does is when the need arises, a rental boiler or an additional boiler can be rolled into position, piped into the system, started, and placed online without any disruption to the already struggling plant. So for planning, I would say, is the absolute best thing a customer can do. They can work with our sales team, with our engineering team. We can make site visits, point out where these points of connection should be, gather site-specific information so when they have an issue, we already have that data and we can further expedite the solution. So really, for planning, I would say, is the best approach. Now, second, I would say, because we have boilers in stock, both new and used and rental, we have drawing packets already available to supply to our customers. So if they have an emergency need, we can send them drawing packets that detail dimensions, weights, valve sizing, locations of valves, so that they can better anticipate where to place the equipment and how to best tie it into their system. The last thing we want to do is have an expedited need and the customer say, we really haven't thought about this, but we need it to happen quickly. That usually becomes a bit of a fire drill that takes longer to implement than if there had been some even minimal foreplanning.
Planning ahead is definitely key to avoiding those fire drills. To wrap things up, can you give us an overview of the scope and scale of Nationwide Boiler's current in-stock inventory?
So, Nationwide Boiler has a very diverse client base. And because we try to be as flexible as possible with providing planned and expedited needs for our customers, we have a fairly broad variety of in-stock equipment, both new, reconditioned, and rental. Our sizes range from 50 horsepower, gas-fired, vertical steam boilers, all the way up to 200,000 pound an hour superheat, and just about everywhere in between. We have a large inventory of new Hearst boilers equipped with oil-on burners, both in 5 ppm and 30 ppm burner variations. Those are on the shelf. They can ship almost immediately. And we also have a broad variety of water tubes, both in superheated and saturated configurations. We have D-style boilers that tend to be more geared towards sales, and we have O-type boilers that tend to be geared more towards rentals since they transport over the highway a bit better than Ds. So we have, again, a broad variety of equipment, both size and configuration, to meet just about any need that an end user, both in the US and abroad, might need. We also maintain an inventory of ancillary equipment that support our boilers. That consists of feed systems, SCRs, blowdown separators, water softeners, gas regulator sets, and steam vents, and other things that might be needed during an expedited or a planned solution.
That's a great overview of our inventory. Having so many options truly makes a difference for customers facing urgent needs. Thanks, Jim, for sharing your insights today. For anyone looking to explore our in-stock boilers and other boiler solutions, head over to nationwideboiler.com.